Uh, you have good tape and good meaningful reps now to look at. So being able to visually show the guys when you do your job, when you execute the communication, your technique, this is what happens, and here's what happens when you don't. So the emphasis of, yes, effort, execution, the demeanor is pressed. But those fine details, like we can never get away from them, but you can't have the guys being paralysis by analysis. So now there's good tape to look at and say, all right, here's how we got to execute it. Here's the intensity, here's the demeanor. Maybe that's something you get in a scout look or something changes on Saturday. And you get that week 1 to week 2 because what are you really game planning? You got 10, 12 games from the year before and then maybe 1 or none here too. So we've got to do a good job as coaches, and I got to do a good job of giving them the right amount of information, the right amount of stuff to put in a briefcase to take the work, and then letting them go play fast. So that's what we've been really pushing them on.
How have you felt it done overall in the first 2 weeks, reevaluation of the line?
We do some things really well. I thought, communication, protection, when we know where we're going and what we're doing on the same page, it's been good. And then same deal, maybe you get into a long drive or maybe early on something doesn't go well, you're behind the sticks. You can't have that front runner mentality. You've got to go get half. You got to get back on schedule. So the learning part of the game, we've seen now what hurts us and we've seen now what we do really well. So I think with that, just learning and growing from those is what we got to take into this week.
The short yardage issues that you've had, I'm sure it's a combination of things, but what do you see when you watch?
We all have to be efficient. I mean, up front, you look at it, there's 5 guys. So everyone's at the POA because there's more people in the box, there's more people down. So we've got to help each other out that way. And then as you build on, do we add 1 tight end or 2 tight ends? Or then do we have a good read at the back? So I think it's just the cohesive effort of the run unit on that page or on that play. We've got to be efficient and help each other and not be a onesie or twosie, because the more people you add to the box, the lesser room for error you have. And so that's where we've got to be more complementary there as a whole. But really that just starts with us up front, moving our guy, giving the back a chance to press, giving the quarterback a chance to read something a little better, and just executing better.
How confident do you feel right now that the 5 guys you have out there are the right 5?
Well, it's still week by week. But yeah, those guys have been grooving and playing together. You got guys from the back. You got Vic, you got Tegra, you got, Enix coming along. So those guys are getting meaningful reps in practice. It's just a matter of if you want to overtake the guy, then you got to be the guy. If you're the guy and you want to keep it, you got to press. So I would say from, Monday through Friday deal, we come out and, you're going to err on a Wednesday practice and a third down look you haven't had. You're going to have some of those. But pressing all the way through the week, we've had that. We've just got to carry that into the game and bear a little more fruit and more consistently by relying on what we've done during the week, because those guys are pressing and pushing each other. You get all the way to the end of the week, like you probably saw my fat, out of shape butt on the bikes with them. Like there's no lack of want to, demeanor, or grit that way. We just got to execute better.
So if there's a word this week, is it more consistency? Is it more aggression?
We've been saying violent.
Violent?
I've been putting that in our just in our demeanor and our stuff, and like you want to really be a tough guy, then be a tough guy all the time. And so we've got to play more violent. We can't be lines on a page. We're not making a ton of mental mistakes, which is a positive. We've got too many POAs and point of attack mistakes that we've got to go with, and you can solve that through aggression and violence by being a line on a page. If I'm the tackle and the playbook page says block the 3 technique, that's not how you block the 3 technique. You have the 3 technique, and you got to go frickin' block the 3 technique. And so if there's any of an emphasis that, it's been that of like, let's be violent in executing our job, because we're pretty good at communicating, knowing where we're supposed to go.
I was going to say, you've got video probably of y'all doing it right, too, right? I mean, several series, et cetera.
Yes.
You play those up more than anything?
That's the roller coaster ride. You show the really good. You show the execution of whether it be protection, whether it be a run play. You look last week, we were on the first play of the game, we roll up the ball, they bring a pressure. They had a 6-man to the box. We had it up and we go for 9. We're an arm tackle away for opening the game going whatever it was, 70, 75. The next play, we make the right call. We're a line on the page and we get a holding call. That was another run that negated a 6-8 yard run. So that's what I'm saying. Like, we get to the right people, but what's your demeanor and how you're getting there? That's what we got to execute and clean up.
So you're using the word violent there. So in those short yardage situations, is it the execution or just the lack of push because of the lack of violence?
Well, as I say, we're on the right people. We got to block those people better. We got to be on them better. And then when we do it, we got to make the right cut. If all 5 of those guys do it, then whoever's adding to the box to get it's got to do it. Or, so that's what I said. We've got to help each other, because I say, just numerically, if we have 5 blockers and they have 5 defenders, then it's man on man. That doesn't happen in the game of football. So how do you equate numbers? You're going to leave the widest. You're going to trade shift and motion or run away from the widest so that you're giving the back that one guy for a yard or 2 yards. You add more people to it, then you can block those 7, but there's an 8th guy there because you're not reading, you're not throwing off of a guy. And so the more you equate to it, you have to be efficient that way. And then just, everything that goes into it, the new clock, the number of plays, like there's a bunch of different factors going there. So what's that mean for us? Right back to what we go. If I have that 3 technique, I got to kick that 3 technique's butt. All right? So.
How much of that is just overall mindset?
Yeah, but probably a lot. You can grade a play a bunch of different ways. Like, I got an S, I did my job. I got an S, I got to my job, but was there a high effort or execution or a critical point that you got to? So emphasizing those and, like I said, being able to teach off of those. And the next time that shows, like that's a matchup game or that's you versus me and we're both the same, how am I making that block versus not making that block? It's got to be that violent, that execution, whatever that may be.
Justin, are your five best run blockers the same as your 5 best pass blockers? And how do you balance that when you start to figure out how you're going to institute starting 5 offensive line?
I mean, the holistic approach is like he's got to be a good lineman. So you have to be able to do both. I think you're more looking at that, Spencer, like you wouldn't have a guard playing on the perimeter being a tackle because he can't pass pro out there, but he's inside and he can handle that. I just got over. I'm on the bike. I'm too blown out to really process that one too deep. I'm not trying to cut your question off, but you have to be able to do both, and then it's our job to put the guys in the right situation. Of if you wouldn't say, making it up, but if you wouldn't have true drop back tackles, then you can't call 5-man empty drop back protection. You've got to chip and release and do that. So I think execution-wise, we've got to do a good job, and we try to do that of putting our guys in the best situation. Reverting back to be that line on that page. And go do my job when I do that. So you wouldn't put a non-pass blocking guy in a situation like that. Does that make sense? Hope that answers your question that way.
How do you evaluate the line's hand placement for these first couple weeks? Because some of those holding penalties, illegal hands to the face, those are things.
Yeah, when you get those egregious ones, you watch Josh Simmons from last week. He's gluing his hips, he's running his feet, his hands goes high. You got to feel that and get it out. He had one 2 or 3 plays later where Chip busted for 9 or 10 yards. The exact same profile, the exact same hit. His hands started to go high, and he pulled it out and put his hip on him. And then Chip pressed and slid. I think we got up to the 2 or 3 yard line. So, you get those. Why are those happening? Well, that's because my technique or something wasn't taking me home, or I wasn't rebite or fixing that. And you just gotta feel that. You gotta learn from them, and you have to grow. And now we have to go fast because there's no room for error. And you put a bunch of those together, it's already hard enough to gain those yards with extra hats in the box or a blitz pattern or something coming at you. So we have to be cleaner that way.
Justin, you're saying you feel like you're blocking the right guys. It's not mental mistakes, right? Am I to paraphrase for the most part what you're saying?
We've cut down on mental mistakes. We got to execute at the point of attack.
So when you're an offensive line coach and you just want your line to play better, what's easier to try to fix? If it is mental stuff, hey, we're not doing the right thing. Or is it easier to fix physical stuff?
You have to put them in the situations where there's less thinking. So, those good plays, you guys all watch the tape and watch the game. You can tell when all 5 dudes know what's going on. It just looks like a wall. Whether that's here, whether that's my son's playing in, highest junior high, middle school football. When they know what's going on, those 5 guys that don't know much are just rolling off the ball in a run play. If you're protecting the right guys, you're able to do that and play fast. The more you put on their plate or the more you put in their backpack, they're carrying more. They can't play as fast. So that's our job as coaches, saying, how do we schematically put them in the right situations to go, give them those reps, and then how do you intensify those reps or quantify those reps in a scout team versus the good-on-good period? And we just have to keep pressing and coaching that, and they have to keep taking it.
When we talked to you a month ago, we were talking about the benefits of the split practices, playing on 2 fields, and how many reps that was giving you to evaluate guys. Are you playing a little bit of catch-up, though, on the cohesion aspect? When did you start to break that down to where the 5-1s would be?
When we got into game plan prep stuff. So that's been long enough. Those reps now for us are full speed reps versus defense. That's how you're trying to simulate what we talked about earlier. So getting good on good or 1s versus 1s as much as you can do those, but not to an extreme. No, I don't feel that.
Hey, Justin, with
Last question.
The want for violence, have you noticed a discrepancy in the physicality between gap and zone this year at all?
No, it's just comfort of the place. I think we've been pretty universal, and we've had both of those on tape. But that's all game plan wise. Some teams match up, and you want to be able to do that. Other times it doesn't, and you feel like your zone stuff or full zoning things is better. So I think we've got a good mix of that. I think our guards are more comfortable just because they play a lot of ball. So if you have some pull schemes, they're pretty good. Our tackles have done some pulling. We feel like our tackles are pretty athletic. But if you get into a game week where that's not what's good on paper, then you might see less of those. But that has less to do with we feel comfortable like our guys can do that stuff more than anything else.
Justin, these guys gave up 400 yards rushing to their first opponent this year, South Florida and stuff. What problems do they present specifically, Western Kentucky?
Well, schematically, I mean, they do a lot. So you've got to be really good in communication of how many downs are there, where they're at. So they do a lot. So that's just getting in rhythm with our guys during the week of, all right, what's called, what am I seeing, how do I go block it? And then, like we said, too, it's repetitive, but like just put them in the right spots, in the right place where, there might be 8 different looks you have, but I'm doing the same thing on 6 of those 8. That's a good play. Versus if you're looking for that 1E or 2E that hits right only to this, less attraction to plays like that.
All right, we're going to bring in Coach Walton. Thank you.